Hello, and welcome to another lesson from Level Up Mathematics. In today's lesson, we will be exploring how to multiply decimals. Before we do, let's look at a couple of steps. So when we're multiplying decimals, we do not need to line up the decimals like we did when we were adding and subtracting. So when you're multiplying decimals, just write them down as regular numbers and then multiply the factors like they are whole numbers. To place the decimal point in your final answer, you count the total number of digits to the right of the decimal points in the problem, and then you use reasonableness. Excuse me, I meant to say you use estimation to check for reasonableness. Now, that step is very important. We'll be talking about how to do that more in just a minute. So, if I had 2 and 7/10 and I wanted to multiply it by 4 and 3/10, the first thing is I would do is write these two numbers down without a decimal in them. Just write them down as if they're whole numbers. 27 times 43. All right. Now, just like you learned in elementary school, you're just going to multiply these numbers starting from the right. So 3 times 7 is 21. Carry the 2. 3 times 2 is 6, 7, 8. Write down the 8. Put a 0 as a placeholder right here. And then do the same thing with the 4. So 4 times 7 is 28. Carry the 2. 4 times 2 is 8, 9, 10. So write down the 10 and then add that up. So 1 plus 0 is 1. 8 plus 8 is 16. Carry the 1. 1 plus 0 is 1, and then 1. Now, we're getting 1,161. But I want you to notice that answer is not reasonable. So what I'm trying to multiply is 2.7. If I were to round that to 3, and I were round 4 and 3/10 to 4, my answer should be around 12. That's a good estimate of my answer. So 1,161 is way too big. That's because when we're multiplying with decimals, we have to figure out where to place the decimal point in our answer. So to do that, you count the number of digits after the decimal in the problem. So here, there's one number after the decimal. Here, there's one number after the decimal for a total of 2. So that means I have to move my decimal point in 1, 2 places. So my answer is 11.61 or 11 and 61 100ths. Now 11.61, if you rounded that to the nearest whole number, that would round to 12. So now we have a reasonable answer. All right. Now in example 1, we're going to practice to determine how many digits will be behind the decimal in the solution. So to do that, you're going to look at your problem. In problem A, we have 42 and 3/10 times 15. There's only one number after a decimal in this problem. So we would say there's going to be one digit behind the decimal in the solution. All right. Problem B, we have 1 and 32 100ths times 23 100ths. So here we have two numbers after the decimal, two numbers after the decimal. So in our answer, our solution, we will have 4 numbers, 4 digits behind the decimal in the solution. All right, pause the video and try problems C and D on your own. All right, welcome back. Hopefully on C, you put that there would be 2 digits behind the decimal. And in problem D, you put that there would be 3 digits behind the decimal in your solution. All right, example 2. Estimate each solution and then find the product. So when I estimate here, I'm going to give a very rough estimate. All right. So let's say that I estimated 23.4 as 23 and I estimated 9 as 10 so that it would be a much easier problem to solve. So 23 times 10 would simply be 230. All right. Very rough estimate. All right. And In fact, I know that answer's way too big because we're really only multiplying by 9, and in my estimate, we multiplied by 10. The reason I chose 10 is because it's an easy number to multiply by in my head. All right, now we're going to actually work this out. So we're going to write this problem down without any decimals at all. So we're going to take 234 and we're going to multiply it by 9. Again, no decimals yet. All right. So 4 times 9 is 36. Carry the 3. 9 times 3 is 27. Plus 3 is 30. So I'm carrying a 3. 9 times 2 is 18. Plus 3 is 21. Okay, so I'm getting an answer of 2,106. Well, my estimate was 230, so I hope you notice that this answer is way too big. That's because we have yet to place our decimal. So to figure out how to place our decimal, count how many numbers are behind the decimal in the original problem. And there's 1. So that means in this problem, I will be moving my decimal in 1 place. So my final answer here would be 210 and 6/10. Now, I compare that to my estimate and say that's a pretty reasonable answer. All right. All right, 178 times 5/100ths. Now, this problem is a lot harder to estimate. I'll show you how I would do it. I would round 278 to 200 because that's an easy number to work with. And 5/100ths, I would write it as a fraction like this. Okay. Now, hopefully you remember in previous grades that to multiply fractions, we multiply the numerators. So 200 times 5 is 1,000. And 1 times 100 is 100. Well, it's easy to divide by 100 in our head because we just moved the decimal in 2 places. So 1,000 divided by 100 is simply 10. So that's an estimate of our answer. Again, it's a very rough estimate because I rounded 178 to 200 simply because 200 was easier to work with. Now, to get the actual answer, I'm going to write this problem down without any decimals. 178 times 5. All right, now let's work this out. 8 times 5 is 40. Carry the 4. 5 times 7 is 35, plus the 4 is 39. Carry the 3. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 plus 3 is 8. Whoops, I had to put that in blue. So I'm getting 890. Well, remember when we said our estimate is 10? So 890, way too big. That's because I have to count the number of digits after the decimal in my original problem, and that was 2. So that means I must move this problem in not 1 place, but 2 places. So my answer here would be 8.90 or just 8.9. Now compare that to your estimate and you can see it's pretty close to 10. A lot closer than 890 was. Okay. All right. Problem C. 3.50 times 1.5. So I'm just going to round the 3.50 to 4 and the 1.5 to 1. I rounded 1 up and 1 down, and that's approximately 4. So I know my answer is going to be around 4. So if I get an answer of 358, way too big, all right? It's got to be a number that's smaller than 10, all right? So I'm going to write this problem down without any decimals. 350 times 15. All right? 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2. 5 times 3 is 15. Plus the 2 is 17. All right, before we move on to the tens place, I want to fill in a 0 right here, and then I can start with the tens place. So 1 times 0 is 0, 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 3 is 3. Now let's add this up. 0, 5, 12, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 3 is 5. So I'm getting an answer of 5,250. Well, that's way too big. We said our estimate was 4. That's because we haven't placed the decimal yet. So count up the total number of digits in the original problem. There were 2 there and 1 there. So in this problem, I'll be moving my decimal in not 1 place, not 2 places, but 3 places. So let's do that. 1, 2, and 3. Wow, our answer will be 5.250, or you can just write it as 5.25, which is much closer to our original estimate of 4. All right, problem D. We have 42 times 7.25. So I'm going to round this. When I estimate this, I'm going to round the 42 to 40, and I'm going to round the 7.25 to 7. Well, 40 times 7, 4 times 7 is 28. So 40 times 7 would be 280. So that's my estimate. Now, when I write this problem down, my first number has 2 digits. My other number has 3 digits. So I want to write the 3-digit number down first because it'll be a lot easier to multiply. So I'm going to multiply 725 times 42. All right, now what I'd like you to do is pause the video and try this problem on your own. All right, welcome back. Let's see how you did. 2 times 5 was 10, so carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus the 1 is 5. And then 2 times 7 is 14. Now, hopefully you remembered to add in that 0 as a placeholder before you started on your tens place. So 4 times 5 is 20. Carry the 2. 4 times 2 is 8, 9, 10. Carry the 1. 4 times 7 is 28. 28 plus 1 is 29. So 2, 9. So 0, 5, 4, 10, carry the 1, 3. So notice I have an answer of 30,450. That's way too big. Our estimate was only 280. So count the number of digits after the decimal, and notice there's 2. So I must move my decimal place in 1, 2. So my answer will be 304.50, or you can just write it as 304.5. That is much closer to the 280. So we have a reasonable answer. All right. Problem E. A grocery store sells steak for $6.10 per pound. What would be the cost of 2.6 pounds of steak? So what we're multiplying here is 6.10, and we're multiplying that times 2.6. So let me do an estimate first so I can figure out a reasonable answer. I'm going to round the 6.10 to 6, and I'm going to round the 2.6 to 3. So my estimate is around $18. All right. Now I'm going to take these numbers and I'm going to line them up vertically without any decimals. So 610 times 26. All right. 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 6 is 36. Don't forget to add your 0 placeholder before you go on to the 2. Now 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 6 is 12. Now add that all up. 0 plus 0 is 0. 6 plus 0 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. 3 plus 2 is 5. Bring down the 1. Now I know that my steak is not going to cost $15,860. That is not a reasonable answer. So let's see how many digits I should move my decimal place in. There's 2 digits here and 1 here for a total of 3. So 1, 1, 2, 3. Oh, this is a much more reasonable answer. 15.860 or 15.86. So 2.6 pounds of steak will cost us $15.86, much closer to our original estimate of $18. All right. Problem F. Michael bought 2 water park tickets for $29.95 each. If the tax on his purchase was $5.28, what was the total amount he paid for the tickets, including tax? So here's what's happening in this problem. Michael is buying 2 tickets at a cost of $29.95 each. Then at the end, we'll have to add the $5.28 tax. Now let's do an estimate. Let's estimate those tickets to be $30 each. So what we're really doing is 2 times 30, and I'll estimate the $5.28 is just $5. So this would be 2 times $30 would be $60. 60 plus 5 would be... So our estimate on the tickets is $65. All right. Now let's multiply this out for real. I'm going to take $29.95 without a decimal and multiply that by 2. So 2 times 5 is 10, carry the 1. 2 times 9 is 18 plus 1 is 19, carry the 1. 2 times 9 is 18 plus 1 is 19, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. Whoops, I meant to put that in blue. Now, I need to move my decimal 2 places. So if I go 2 places in, that would be $59.90. So 2 times $29.95 is $59.90, and then I still need to add the tax. Now, here you'll have to remember what you learned about adding decimals. When we add decimals, we line them up and add, and we bring the decimals straight down. So 0 plus 8 is 8. 9 plus 2 is 11. Carry the 1. 9 plus 1 is 10. Plus 5 is 15. Carry a 1. 1 plus 5 is 6. So I'm getting a total of $65.18. Now compare that to our estimate. That looks like a reasonable answer to me. And that concludes today's lesson, Multiplying Decimals Review.